This will begin I believe, a four-part series of pictures I took a couple summers ago in San Francisco. However, a disclaimer, I did not have my nice Canon camera at that time, so these were taken with a phone, and not even something fancy like an iPhone. It was a OnePlus Nord phone, bottom of the barrel, cheapest of the line, but it's still ideal. It still takes okay pictures. Now, of course, if I ever go back to, I'm going to do a Los Angeles series too, and I took pictures with the same phone. Uh, Maybe a month, 6 weeks from now. If I ever go back to those places and get better photography with my camera, of course, I would replace these videos with the videos with the better photography. This first part has 28 pictures in it, I believe, all around San Francisco. So let's get started. Okay, picture number one here, your typical San Francisco trolley car. Pretty expected and generic picture of San Francisco, but I think this was in the closer to one of the parking yards, the standing yards where they go when they're out of service. I know I have one coming up that has it where it hits the end of a line and does this loop-to-loop turnaround thing, and then people are waiting there to get on, and they can ride the entire length of the route. But this is definitely a parked trolley car. It says Market Street Railway Company on the side, and Powell and Hyde on top. I'm not sure what that is, but yes, I couldn't tell you exactly where in San Francisco that was. It was taken. So I was there in August. I'm looking at the date stamp on the picture. All these pictures came from August, summer of 2024. So not quite 2 years ago yet. Okay, I took a Greyhound bus on this trip, going from Texas and all the way to Oakland, and then you had to get out, even though you were just right across the bay from San Francisco, you had to get out in Oakland, and this sort of, sketchy part of town, if I'm honest, and you had to wait there for 3 hours. Then another bus came, and then shot you over the bridge, all through San Francisco, and then dropped you off in this area, which is near Fort Mason, where my hostel was. So it was in that, Pier something, I don't know. Pier 39 is the one with the big shopping area. This is probably Pier 50 something, because they go in order up going toward this part of the city. And then there's some docked old ships there, like galleon type ships or something, and a little teeny beach. And there's a little cove right there that people can swim in. That's not further out in the bay where the currents are worse and there's a predator or shark possibility. This little cove you can swim just like it was an ocean water pool or something. So this would be one of the first things I saw when I got off the bus, and I was trying to figure out how to get up to Fort Mason where my hostel was. And I was about 5 hours early for checking into a hostel too. That always happens to me on these trips. The transportation gets me there. Even if you fly, I wind up getting there early and getting to the area where the hostel is, and then needing to kill eons before I can check in. But it's usually not that bad. This is another shot of that same area with a little small beach, and you can see a ship in the background. I would have got somewhere straight ahead in that picture is where I would have got dropped off at. So yeah, it's a nice little area for people to hang out. I can't remember what day of the week I got there, but that could have made a difference for how many people might have been there or something. Here is that same area where you see the people walking on the sidewalk thing. Those boats are now further down. There's a maritime museum or something that's there, and that is there's a big anchor there. And that picture actually came out pretty clear for a phone. You probably could guess I'm not a big fan of, oh, the phone takes fine enough pictures as compared to a camera. No, cameras, even a crop sensor lens camera, takes far better pictures than cameras, I think, because the cameras do all the automatic stuff. You can't really, you can control the settings, but not like, you can't a mirrorless or DSLR camera. But if you get just the right lighting, as you'll see in some of these photos coming up, it doesn't do too bad a job. So there's an old anchor for you. So speaking of killing time, once I did find the hostel, and I had to go up this long staircase down from that area where those last few pictures were taken and get into Fort Mason, and then drag my suitcase and stuff around Fort Mason and stuff, trying to find out where the hostel actually was. It's like all these yellow wood, kind of wood siding buildings that are there, all part of the old fort that used to be there. So it was hard to differentiate, which one was the hostel and which one were just, houses for other purposes. But I finally found it, was able to leave my suitcase there, and then walk through this little grassy area that actually overlooks San Francisco Bay. The location of that hostel, Fort Mason HI hostel, is probably the most amazing location that you could imagine having or finding. But I walked a little field thing and then down the hill into this park, this public park. Then there's these old places where they used to put where ships used to depart from. An army barracks used to be. Like I said, it used to actually be a functioning fort. Then and there's parking for it. There's always like trendy restaurants that are built in the old barracks and stuff. And then this big farmers market. So I probably got there on a weekend day, Saturday or Sunday, probably a Sunday. And then this farmers market thing was going on. So I was able to walk down and kill some time there. That was fortunate because I had at least 4 or 5 hours to kill before I could check in after my arrival. Here's that park I mentioned in the last picture. There's a little area with some picnic tables in it outside the hostel. And then you go down this stairway, you get into this little park here. And there's a little walking and running paved area that goes right through the middle of the park. And if you go all the way through this park and it keeps going down, like winding down, then at the bottom there's this little marina type thing, and then there's a Safeway grocery store. So that was a lifesaver. It's like, because you do all your cooking at the hostel. So you had a grocery store within walking distance. The only thing that was bad is going back to the hostel from the grocery store. It was back through this park, but all winding uphill, and then up this steep stone staircase into the little area that was level with the hostel itself, and then through that little field thing or something, and then into a hostel. So it was kind of a workout by the time you got back there. But so I'd always try and every day take my bus rides and stuff, where I'd wind up on that lower part, and then go to the grocery store, and then walk up the hill to the hostel. So I only had to, go through that park once. But that park was great. It wasn't a whole lot there, just a lot of open area. You could see the people sitting around. That area in the background with the buildings, that's not like downtown San Francisco, just some other area. Remember, San Francisco is only 7 miles by 7 miles, 49 square miles. So you're lucky to get a park in there at all, although there are actually lots of teeny little one-block big parks and stuff thrown in all over the city. This just happens to be quite a big park, because it's up in the north part of the city, where it's not quite as congested. That is just a small example of some of the architecture that you see, all over San Francisco. I probably left the hostel the next day. It was on my way to get my first bus, my first attempt at mastering San Francisco public transportation, which I finally did after being there 2 weeks. But yeah, that was just a random picture. I chose this one because it actually came out clear, because the lighting was okay for a phone picture. But some guy riding a bike by there too. It's a I'd say it's a fairly bikeable city, except as you'll see later on in the series, there's some pretty brutal hills. Everybody knows about the hills, San Francisco. I walked up several. Walking's bad enough. You wouldn't have been able to ride a bike. It would have been walking up the hill while you were rolling your bicycle, which would have made it twice as bad. All right, I mentioned that grassy knoll area that was outside of the hostel, and you can see how I said it went down to a little area where you can see that there's houses and stuff down in that area I mentioned. This is not a great. It was grain, and the picture's grainy and all that kind of stuff, even though the ISO was only at 100. But what's interesting about this, you can see one of the towers of the Golden Gate Bridge coming up through the fog. Now, fog just rolls in from the ocean, or rolls out from the bay, I'm not sure which, just, randomly, a few different times a day. But in the afternoon, I'd see the bridge covered in fog, but mostly in the morning, I think. This picture was taken at, it says 9 o'clock in the morning, so it gives you an example there. And, there's lots of traffic that goes on there, too. Going from, I guess, the Marin County north, if don't quote me on that, and then south of the bridge, of course, San Francisco, and if there's a big cloud, you'd be driving through that. Imagine driving through that thick cloud all the way across the bridge, which is more than a mile long, to get to the other side, and then coming out of the fog on the other side. It seems to me like there'd be a lot of accidents or something. From what I understand, what I heard was that every time you drive on that bridge, going one way or the other, it's a $10 toll. And the other bridge that goes from another part of San Francisco into Oakland, that's like $9 each time. So if you had to commute to Marin County to work, say you had to do that 5 days a week, that would be 10, 20. That would be $20 a day each way, times 5. That'd be $100 a week just to cross that bridge. I don't know how many people work over there, but I'm sure that's the situation for some people, which is $400 a month. Like, it wasn't expensive enough to live there already. You could be paying $400 a month in tolls. Because this was me walking just along the shoreline in the north part of San Francisco, going toward Golden Gate Bridge. I didn't go on the Golden Gate Bridge right away, but because there's some other stuff you can see, just a little marina and docked boats. But this right here is, I don't remember what the official name of it is, but it's a giant whistle organ, sea organ, a pipe organ, which is built out of cement, and apparently, I didn't hear anything coming from it, but from what I understand is if the wind is just right and there's enough water that's risen up into it a little bit or something like that, it'll actually make these sounds. And someone had built that specifically to engineered it to work as some kind of natural organ or something. But that was a long time ago. It's been there a long time. It's mainly just a landmark now. All right, I forget the name of this. This is the north part of San Francisco, too. Walk by it coming back from that North Shore area. It's this old, I don't know, Greek classical type building thing. It was built for a state exhibition or world exhibition that San Francisco hosted a long time ago, like 100 years or so or more. And then they kept this building up there. It's got a little duck pond, and you can weave through all these pillars and stuff. It looks like something, out of, antiquity, ancient Greece or ancient Rome. And it was, I think, meant to look that way. And there's rotundas and stuff. I have some more pictures of this coming up, I'm sure, because it's very interesting. And you just wander through there, and you could sit in different places. So, I don't know, that picture isn't real clear. But it's fine. You get the idea. I can't remember the exact Palace de something or something. I probably should have looked this stuff up on the map before I made the video. But those in the know will know what this is anyway. It's another example of this same area with the old, the old Greek or Roman architecture thing that they built. You can see how people are walking around right there, and there's a pond. And I think I probably walked, I probably walked all the way around that pond and tried to get pictures at different angles. But yes, it's I'm beginning to see. I really wish I had my good Canon camera when I was there, because a lot of these things in San Francisco are just too nice to rely on the iffiness of whether a phone's going to get you a good shot or not. But going all the way back to San Francisco for 2 weeks just to do a photo shoot, I don't know. If I ever wind up, living out there like I intend to do, well, then I could go there pretty much any time I wanted to. Okay, here's another wing or view of that same building structure. Now, just a little secret here. You think I was taking a picture of the wing wrapping around, and I was, but you see those two. I was also following those two girls there on that sidewalk. That was probably my main purpose for this picture. No, I'm just kidding. But place like San Francisco, it's almost impossible to not get incidental people in a picture, because it's dense. I mean, there's a lot of people in a small, dense area. Like I said earlier, 49 square miles. And I just said there's just people everywhere. I mean, every little nook and cranny, there's people. There's some areas, like when I was in Chinatown, it was so packed and congested. It's like there would have been no way to get a picture in Chinatown without people in it. I could have managed it here, but I wasn't particularly concerned about it either. The same building, but underneath that rotunda thing, shooting upwards, you can see there's a nice little structure there on the underside of the dome, and the pillars going down. I mean, to have built that entire thing just for a world exhibition, but they always do that, like the Crystal Palace in London, when Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, he wanted to impress the world. They built a giant glass palace that had the trees from the park still inside of it, so you didn't have to cut down any trees. That was for their world exhibition. And I don't know if this was for a world exhibition they built this in San Francisco, but it was some big deal, and they went all out. Okay, as promised, there's an example of a steepness of one of the typical street in the more inner city of San Francisco. And what's cool is there's no suburb of San Francisco. You live in the city, you live in one of these kind of houses. Somewhere, in the city. There's no outskirts of the city. It's too small. You go south of the city, Daly City, areas like that, or across the bay into Oakland, you can find your suburbs. But San Francisco is very unique that way. You live in the city, or not at all, basically. But I was walking up this hill, and I had probably had to stop 2 or 3 times to rest, so I got a picture of the curve, the incline of the street. I mean, it's brutal. Sun was out, so it was kind of warm, and I don't know. I've had bad luck. I don't think I got a chance to walk down many of these streets at all. Where I was going, there was something I knew I wanted to go see, or I'd heard about. I always had to go up, and then, but I wouldn't go back down to get back to where I was coming from. Then, once you get to the top of the hill, then the street's level, and that's the way I'd walk to go get like a bus or something that was going to take me out of that area. I think I was on my way to see the house they filmed Mrs. Doubtfire, the Robin Williams movie, that back in the 80s. And this was the street, but I had to go up 3 or 4 blocks at that incline. Just about did me in. And as mentioned, that is the house that they used for the Mrs. Doubtfire movie with Sally Fields, Robin Williams, where he separated from his family, and then he dressed up as a nanny, a woman, nanny, so he could still be around his kids. It's a pretty funny movie. I'm sure 90% of the world has seen it. But that's the actual house that they filmed it in. Someone lives there now, and you can. And sure enough, I when I crossed Caddy Corner across the street after taking this picture, some family had pulled up and gotten out and taken their picture in front of it. So still, that movie's like 40 years old, and I went and saw it, and then someone else was there too. So people were still coming there regularly to take their picture there. Pretty wild. It looks pretty much just like it did in the movie, even that same light blue color. Because that's just an example of gives you an idea of the steepness of the street going down. I didn't have to walk down that one. I'd left the Mrs. Doubtfire house, was walking along a level street, stopped somewhere to probably sat on one of those steps and noticed how far down it looked. So I just got a picture of it. But yeah, having an electric bicycle or always planning your bus routes where it was going to get you to a top of one of the hills or something would be pretty wise, almost mandatory if you lived in San Francisco. As or knowing the city well enough where you could always catch the level routes and then go downhill or something and never have to go up one of these hills because these sidewalks are not messing around there. There's an example of down a sidewalk. This is somewhere around where some like Catholic schools and stuff were, and I thought that was nice. Don't mind that pink blob at the top, if you can even see it once this video's edited. But that was my finger blocking off part of the phone camera, I guess. But you can see how nice it is. You're on the top, and you see how far down that street goes, which actually winds up going all the way to the water, and houses aligned on either side. The cars have to park a certain way with their wheels turned a certain way, or they'll get a ticket to prevent them from rolling down these hills. Especially if they're if it is an angle parking like that. If it's like parallel parking, you have to have your wheels turned like toward the curb or something. So if you rolled down, it would go on an arch, and the back of your car would go to the right and run into a curb again, and not roll down the hill and runaway train down one of those hills, destroying everything in its path. But that's an okay picture. All right, so this is more houses I ran into walking away from the movie house I was talking about. Now this house had that one in the corner, that white one with the little gable on top. I noticed it was for sale, so I walked over there and had to look around, and there was a sign with a number on it, or a website, or a QR code maybe, or something. I'm not sure, but I had to. It was sort of a hassle getting the information about it. But when I finally got the information about it and saw the listing online, that corner house, just that tan part, not the blue to the right of it. It cuts off right there. There's a front door with the white staircase going up. It was, what was it? I'm trying to remember. $7 million, I believe. I'm $7.1 million or something. And it would have been that whole, and I'm not even sure if that tan part with the 6 windows, 3 on top, 3 on the bottom, is part of that house. I hope it is for $7 million. But that gives you an example of how much people are paying for one of these nice old Victorian-style houses in the central San Francisco area. It's insane, huh? Okay, this is probably an entirely different day. I took the bus down past Chinatown and got dropped off in the more closer to the downtown area. This is Union Square. It's an open area place with tables and awnings, those umbrella things, and then there's some nice shopping there too. There's your Saks Fifth Avenue, and Tiffany's and Company is right there, that taller building to the right of Saks, and there's fountains and stuff in there. That would probably be a really nice place to be in the nighttime. I don't know if I ever made it down there at night, but the Saks, yeah, and then there's other expensive stores that are even across the street from there. But that whole area is a Union Square area, sort of a respite from the congestion and craziness when you're in the downtown San Francisco. Another angle of Union Square, there's a some statue there, some column, you should call that, with some kind of thing on top of it. And yeah, I didn't go hang out there or anything, but that would have been nice. I was just there, probably just switching buses or something. But that's kind of nice to get a little bit more architecture, old architecture. A lot of the buildings there are really still very old looking. There's a in the strictly downtown area, you got some newer stuff, but even those are surrounded by old stuff. Even that Pan America, that Pan America building, that pointy thing, was built in like the early 70s or late 60s. This is Grace Cathedral, which is centrally located. You had to pay like $12 or something to go in there and look at it on a regular day, which I didn't really want to do, just go look around a church. So what I did was I went there on a Sunday, and then they have to let you in for free, right, because it's a church day. And I saw all the inside of it there. I got a few pictures, but the pictures didn't come out real good because I was using the phone. As mentioned, that is I believe it's called the Pan America Building, built in the late 60s, early 70s. That was a very modern thing when it was built. Of course, now, I don't know, what do you think of it now, but it is definitely a landmark of the downtown San Francisco area. It has been for the last 50 years or so. Okay, this would be getting into Chinatown, probably an entirely different day. Used to be open air markets. The architecture is still the old building architecture, but this is where, for a couple hundred years probably, Chinese immigrants have moved to, and everything's written in English and Chinese characters, calligraphy, and several times I took the bus. I went right through this area. Well, of course, 2 or 3 times I got off and walked around the area. So that's just an example of shooting down one of the streets. Here is an alleyway in Chinatown with those paper, what are those things called? I'm not sure. Paper lantern type things. Maybe at night they were lit up. I don't know. As you can see, I was there in the broad daylight. I just realized I kept my glasses on after between shots. So there's but yeah, that's nice. And look how far down those paper lanterns go. I mean, several blocks it looks like. Okay, my glasses are off again now. This is another shot, not a very clear picture, but down a little side street. So you're on one of the main streets of Chinatown, and then all these little side streets that like have dead ends branch off with all these little shops and restaurants. I think I definitely went down that one because there was a gift shop, and I think I got my mom a Chinese character English lettering shirt. It said something about Chinatown, San Francisco, or something, a touristy thing. I think it only cost like a few bucks too. It was like, what? Could be you can find anything in San Francisco. It only cost a few bucks. But China, I don't know. Maybe Chinatown's a little bit more inexpensive than some of the other parts of town. I don't know, but I didn't see any issue with it there. That's an okay shot. Okay, that is a particularly good shot, I think, for a camera. It says Hop Sing Tong on top. Don't know what that is, or those are residential apartments or what, but I think it was down that side street that was in the last picture, and there's always streamers. I guess that's maybe a Chinese flag or something. Doesn't look like the Chinese flag they use now, but it looks like a flag, and I'm sure it's indigenous. They know exactly what it is, and I don't. But it's nice. You're down under this fluttering thing, and there's the bottom right. If my black box with me in it isn't blocking it, has got some more of those lantern things hanging out. So there's a lot of traditional, like Chinese type stuff. I would, it's just past New Year's now when I'm making this video. I wonder if a couple nights ago, if that whole area went really nuts down there because, well, there's the Chinese New Year. I think it's different than the Western New Year. So maybe it was, quiet as a mouse around there. I don't know. I wasn't there. But that's an interesting picture with all the flags going across. So that was at the end of that alleyway, I believe, and it's this, I don't know what that is. That one sign, the red sign, has pictures of food on it. So that would be a restaurant, but that whole thing wasn't a restaurant, not that entire edifice. That's a 1, 2, 3, or 4 level Asian design building that definitely looks. I don't know what the function of it was. Lots of Chinese calligraphy on that building too. And the last picture of this part 1 of the San Francisco photography series is just what it looks like. A plate of rice and a bigger plate of tofu with bell pepper and some kind of sauce. That's what I had for lunch. I said, well, if I'm in Chinatown, I'm not much of a restaurant guy, but if I'm in Chinatown, by cracky, I'm going to eat Chinese food in Chinatown, in the most famous Chinatown in the entire world, San Francisco. So that's what I got. I think then I got some water to drink, and those are my chopsticks, which I don't know how to use. There's a spoon, which I do know how to use, believe it or not. And those are my sunglass things I had. And the place was pretty crowded. It wasn't all that big, so it was like right around lunchtime. I think the time on here is 12:17 p.m. So it was right at lunchtime. So it was busy, and I was barely able to eat all that. It was a big portion, and I think for San Francisco in a restaurant, pretty good price. It was I think that was. I don't know. I think that was like $13 or $14 for the rice and the full plate of tofu with the bell pepper. There were mushrooms in there too. I was completely stuffed on that. So I was glad I did that. In fact, I didn't even eat dinner later that night. I was so full. Okay, so that concludes part 1 of what I believe was going to be a 4-part series of San Francisco photography taken with my phone in the summer of 2024.